Okay, good morning, everyone. Dev at the side, and we welcome you all to today's webinar. Uh, as we can see, there are still people joining, so we'll give it a couple of minutes and then probably start the session. Uh, okay, looks like most of the people have joined the session, and in the interest of the time, we'll probably kick off with the proceedings. So, once again, a very warm welcome to everyone who have joined us today for this Evosys live webinar of Scottish Natural Heritage's journey to Oracle Cloud and beyond. And once again, many thanks for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I mean, we really appreciate it. In terms of your speakers for today, so my name is Devdutt, and I work as an account director within the UK public sector and local government practice for Evosys. And along with me, we have Patrick Haston, who is the Oracle Cloud Project Manager for SNH, and today is going to narrate the Oracle Cloud journey from an SNH's perspective. We've also got Kushal on the call on the webinar, and he heads our UK local government practice for Evosys. And amongst the three of us, we'll be more than happy to answer any of your questions that you have towards the end of the webinar. So just wanted to share a few housekeeping rules for today's webinar. I mean, this session is being recorded, and we will share the recording for today's session with all the attendees after the webinar has been delivered. Uh, we'll also share the presentation slides that you'll be seeing today as part of this webinar, and that will be shared along with the recording of this webinar. So you'll get the complete collateral of this webinar, which can be further circulated within your internal team members as applicable. There is a Q&A session or a question and answer session at the end of the webinar. So what we'll do is that we'll probably have an open forum for all the participants and the attendees to ask any questions that you might have from an SNH or Evosys perspective. And having said that, you will also be having a question box functionality available in the control panel of GoToWebinar, where you can type in any questions that you have as the webinar progresses, and we'll probably try to address them during the webinar if the time permits, or take them all together as part of the Q&A session, which is at the end of the webinar. In the same control panel, all the attendees will also have an access to raise their hands in case they wish to share any ad hoc questions probably during the Q&A session. So you can leverage that functionality as well. And from our perspective, whilst we'll try to address all the questions, but in case there are any questions which are unanswered or unattended, we'll try to revert on those questions with follow-up emails. So before we get straight to the agenda for the day, just wanted to give you a brief overview about SNH and Evosys, as you are going to hear a lot about both of these organizations as part of today's webinar. So Scottish Natural Heritage, or SNH as we call, is Scotland's nature agency, and they work relentlessly towards preserving and improving the environment and natural beauty which is spread across the entire of Scotland. They are a public sector organization and an arm's length body of the Scottish government. But having said that, they have been recently rebranded to Nature Scot, and as you can see, the new logo which is there on the screen, and this rebranding took place just a couple of weeks ago. But for the context of this webinar, we'll use the name Scottish Natural Heritage, as they were still referred to SNH in back in the day when Evosys was implementing the Oracle Cloud solution for them. So Patrick, I hope that's all right with you for this particular webinar. Their employees, or environmental agents as we call, they work in the most remote locations of Scotland with a mission to enhance and protect the key habitats and landscapes across Scotland, so that maximum benefits and outcomes can be provided back to the residents of Scotland. And their vision is to achieve a fine balance between nature and technology, so that they can maintain a sustainable biodiversity through all parts of Scotland. So that's pretty much an overview about SNH, or Nature Scot, as an organization. Again, we are grateful to Patrick Heston, who has joined us today, and he works as an Oracle Cloud Project Manager at SNH. Just to give you a brief overview about Patrick and the background for his profile. So he has been with SNH since its inception, and he has primarily worked in the software development team and has also led the team for many years. And he has been involved in almost all of the major ICT milestones for SNH as an organization. I mean, be it the Oracle EBS implementation, which started back in 2003, to setting up the shared services platform, which itself was a major milestone for SNH. And if you talk about the most recent stint for Patrick, then he was the acting project manager for the EBS strategic review, along with the implementation of Oracle Cloud project. In terms of a quick overview about Evosys, so we are a global organization with an Oracle Platinum partner and a Cloud Premier status. Whilst we are in the field of Oracle business applications and consulting for more than 13 years now, but since then we have achieved a tremendous growth, and as a result we are currently spread across 30 countries globally. We are one of those premium Oracle partners who focus dedicatedly on the Oracle Cloud applications and technology, and we deliver solutions across all the pillars that Oracle Cloud has to offer. We have the pleasure of supporting more than 1,000 plus Oracle Cloud customers globally, which includes more than 85 public sector organizations across the UK. And we have delivered successful digital transformation programs in conjunction with our customers and Oracle, which has made a measurable difference in terms of service quality, efficiency, and productivity. All of these programs are basically backed up by our proven and tested value-based delivery framework, which is nothing but a approach or a framework behind delivering measurable values to our customers. And as a result of delivering multiple successful Oracle Cloud programs across the globe, we have been felicitated with a number of awards by Oracle, which includes the most recent HCM Global Partner of the Year and ERPM Global Partner of the Year. So that was pretty much an overview about SNH and Evosys. In terms of the agenda that we are going to cover as part of today's session, so we are going to start off by discussing why SNH moved to an integrated Oracle Cloud solution. What was the need behind the same, and why SNH took this decision for selecting Oracle Cloud and Evosys as their partner of choice. We are then going to talk through the Oracle Cloud implementation journey of SNH with Evosys and how the strong collaboration that existed between both the teams from day one resulted into a successful go live of the Oracle Cloud program for SNH. Moving on, then we'll talk about the key lessons that SNH learned as part of this journey and how they are currently living in the world of Oracle Cloud and how they are continuously enhancing the solution as we speak. Finally, we'll have an open forum session where all the attendees and the participants will have an opportunity to ask the questions to SNH or Evosys. So I think without much further ado, I would now like to invite Patrick to talk us through the SNH Oracle Cloud journey. Patrick, over to you, please.
Oh, thank you, David, for the introduction. I'm really excited to be sharing our story with you today because I'm so proud of what the team at SNH, or Nature Scott, as we are now known, have achieved. So let's get started. Next slide, please. So why have we moved to our cloud, the Oracle Cloud? So Oracle have been working on their cloud applications for a long time, since the early 2000s when they first started on their application called Fusion. We didn't get our first demo of it until 2016. And in February 2017, our senior leadership team commissioned a strategic review of our e-business suite. Now, we had a really broad footprint. It covered most of our core back office functions, so our financials, procurement, HR, payroll. You can read on the screen what everything it covered. It was really the beating heart of our organization, really depended on the e-business suite to function. So within that system, we had made a few customizations, but not many. So it was pretty much out of the box. But there were a number of things going on in the organization and that were making us think that, well, actually, might be a time for change. One of those was our business transformation program. As an organization, we were looking to prepare ourselves for a future that was, you can never stand still as an organization. You have to keep innovating, keep improving, keep changing. And we had a program of work to do that. For example, one of the projects we were looking at was underway was our flexible working project, which would enable people to work in different locations, from the office, from remote offices, on the move, or even at home. Turns out that turned to be quite useful when COVID-19 came along, because we already had everything in place to allow everybody to work from home. So that was useful. And the back office business system processes that we had, they were all hard-coded into the e-business suite and had been configured when we implemented it, which was, so really it was configured for how we worked in the previous decade. And we were wanting to think about how we would want to work in the next decade. So change was in it. We had to make some changes. In the review that we were carrying out, in strategic review, we started off with a staff survey of the whole organization, and the most frequent complaints were about poor usability and a clunky user interface, and people were really struggled. Those who used it every day in our finance and HR teams, they were fine because they were using it every day and got used to its quirks, and they were really productive and quite happy with the product. But those in the wider organization, the managers, the employees, if they weren't using it as frequently, then whenever they came to do a process, they would need to ask a colleague to support them, to help them through the process. So it wasn't really a true self-service function. Furthermore, having our own system on-premise carried a risk. We're at S&H, isn't a big organization. We've got about 700 people on our payroll. We're running a complex system like the e-business suite on our own infrastructure. It required a team of skilled experts to support that. And we had because of our size, we didn't have many built-in redundancy. We had a lot of single points of failure. So there was an ongoing risk, and that was, we recognized that, and that was a concern. And so if we go on to the next slide, then, sorry, next slide, please. Thank you. So we looked at all the products that we could. We focused on cloud-based products. The reason for that was it was part of the Scottish Government's digital strategy. It's also part of the UK Government's digital strategy, so it's not just a Scottish thing. And our own digital strategy mirrored this. So we looked at all the cloud ERP solutions that we could find in the market, and we were looking for a single product that covered all the functionality of our current system. We didn't want to lose anything. So, and we wanted a single integrated product because that's what we were used to, and we really appreciated how you could have joined up reporting that would pull information from the different modules to give you a single view of the system, of the business. And so that's why we went for that rather than best of breed products, because well, it's one of the other reasons is I don't like interfaces, and actually, since this project, I really don't like interfaces, but we'll get to that later. Oracle Cloud came up top of our evaluation because it covered all the functionality we needed, and it had a mature integrated UK payroll solution, which was more than it was a better offering than any of the other products we saw. And as a side benefit, being an Oracle product, we already spoke the language, so the terminology is very similar. So that was helpful. So we took that recommendation back to our senior leadership team, and they accepted that. But recognizing it was such a big investment, they asked us to do some further due diligence. They wanted us to speak to other customers, just to check that the sales pitch that we'd been given, the product was actually as good as the salespeople said, and to learn more about the implementation project that we would be undertaking. So we spoke to the Office of National Statistics, one of the early adopters of Oracle Cloud in the public sector, probably the first, I believe. And we also spoke to HM Treasury, who'd recently gone live, and they were particularly helpful. We spent a day with them, and they took us through the system and the project. Right, they were really, really helpful. Can't be more grateful to them. So that was useful. It gave us useful intel on, confirmed what the product actually did deliver, and you'll give us a bit of intel about the project as well. Our procurement route was to use the Health Trust Europe framework. Now this was quite useful because it avoided the need to do a full European tender, which, if you've ever done one before, you really don't want to have to do any more of those than you have to. Being able to pick both the product and the implementation partner was helpful because we knew what the product we wanted, Oracle Cloud. We'd already done that evaluation. We didn't have an implementation partner in mind because we'd been self-sufficient on the e-business suite for years. We had our own in-house team to support that. So we did a bit of market research and issued a tender. And Evosys put in an exceptionally strong bid. We liked the emphasis they put on an on-site team because we thought that would really help with the skills transfer of the knowledge to our own team. So that after we went live, we would be self-sufficient once again. That was really important to us. So having an on-site team, we thought that we liked that. We liked the iterative approach in the proposal, where we would go through several repetitions of the configuration and testing. We thought that would give us a best chance of actually getting a product that was ideally tailored to our needs. It was a much more agile approach, and that was important to us. And most of all, we like their track record, because Evosys have probably done more UK public implementations than anyone else. So when you're making a journey into the unknown like we were, we'd never been into this was our first cloud project of any sort. So it's great to have a guide who's been there before. So that was really important. So next slide, please. The contract was let on the 30th of May. That was for both the Oracle licenses and for the and for Evosys. So we kicked our implementation meetings off in June. And next slide. And here are the real heroes of the story. This photograph was taken shortly after go live, and we're all still smiling, amazingly. Probably a bit tired, but smiling still. The team, and it was a single team, they worked tirelessly to make this project a success, and I'm so grateful for their hard work and enthusiasm, because that carried us through. It's, they were great. On the SNH side, we picked people from we had the existing eBusiness Suite support team, so they were a key part of the team, and then we pulled in subject matter experts from both HR and finance. We tried to pick the best people from each team, and I'm sure they hated us for it, but it actually paid them dividends, because when they came back into their teams at the end of the project, they had their experts were even more expert, and that was, I think, they're actually reaping the benefits of that now. We brought everybody together just in time before the project started, so that was helpful, and the HR and finance teams obviously had backfill for those. Speaking to other customers hadn't really fully prepared us for the reality of the pace and the scale of the task, and we had to actually ramp up quickly, because we had to bring in additional support, which I'll mention a bit later. But payroll in particular, we probably would have benefited with a dedicated payroll person on the team, but SNH at that time we only had one payroll manager. We didn't have a spare one going around to devote to the project. So it put a lot of pressure on our payroll manager, but she rose to the challenge, and we managed. We worked closely with the Evosys project manager to help plan the project, because we scheduled activity around the holiday periods, for example, because we didn't have backfill to allow people to take leave whenever they wanted. We had to try and plan the project around holidays, so that we could have some downtime, so that people get breaks at Christmas and Easter and the like, and around school holidays. So we did our best to schedule the work of the project around that. The Evosys, the people they put on site, they were great. They were knowledgeable, hardworking, and really friendly and easy to get on with. And actually, some of the team, we're still in touch with each other today. They made, we built up some good relationships there, and they were a great bunch. I couldn't speak more highly of them. And if they didn't know the answer, then the Evosys Centre of Excellence, who were based in London, they had the answers, and they were brought in at key points through the project, and their knowledge was formidable. It's really good having that that expertise on tap whenever we needed it. To back all these people up, there was another team working offsite, and that worked really well. They handled a lot of the data loading, for example, and some of the report development, and the on-site team managed all this so that it was all seamless for us. So it just worked well. Next slide, please. I've mentioned the pace already, and one of the things you need to do when you're trying to achieve a fast pace is you need to make decisions quickly. And I did mention that we are a public sector organisation. Public sector not known for making decisions quickly. Actually, S&H is not bad. We're pretty good, but one way of getting that fast, quick decision making is to empower the team. Now it was quite clear that the project board were a little bit uncomfortable with this level of delegating of decision making, and they wanted to retain some control, which is entirely within that's their prerogative. And to their credit, they came to all our the managers who wanted to retain the decision making came to all the workshops that we'd scheduled where decisions were going to be required. They came, they heard firsthand what the issues were, and were then able to make decisions based on the knowledge that they'd gained and the facts, and they made decisions then and there, and that actually worked really well. So we were able to get the pace that we needed. And the other aspect here is the volume of work, because a project like this, it's massive business change for the organization. It's not just about the technology, it's as much about the people as it is about the technology. And we'd put together a huge communications plan and a whole strategy about how we're going to make sure that the right people were engaged and everybody knew what was happening. So we'd taken over a part of our corporate intranet, and we kept that up to date with a constant flow of messages about what was happening, and so that everybody could be aware of what was going on and when things were happening. And that worked really well. Obviously, there are always a few who choose to opt out of all communications, but that's I don't think S&H is unique in that. So having an Evosys project manager as well as an S&H one really helped. In fact, we actually had two S&H project managers. We had another one project manager working alongside me and focusing on the business change while I was focusing on more in the technology side. And that worked. And the three of us worked really well as a team. Between us, we managed issues, and we tried to protect the team from as much as possible, so that they weren't exposed to any conflicts. Not that we argued, but we did disagree about some things, and we challenged each other. But but that's good, because you need a critical friend in a project like this. You need somebody who's going to sort of challenge you. So, speaking of challenges, here are some of the ones that we faced. Data migration, it's always difficult in any project. Evosys gave us a suite of Excel templates to populate, and these spreadsheets had inbuilt validation so that we could be confident that data we'd entered into them was complete and accurate and would load into Oracle. They did all the heavy lifting of doing the loading into the Oracle cloud. We had to get it out of our e-business suite into Excel. We stole one of our internal developers who'd had some experience of working with the e-business suite, and he wrote a suite of scripts to pull all this information out, and that worked really well. We also minimized the amount of data we were going to take across, and that helped too. The quarterly updates. Now, these are where one of the advantages of moving to the cloud is you get regular updates. The system keeps improving. But when you're actually implementing a system, that can be a bit unhelpful, because it's a bit trying to hitting a moving target. What you see in the one iteration has changed because there's new functionality released, and so it's difficult to test and know that what your test is going to be the same as the product you're actually going live with. So that was a challenge. One of the updates we received midway through the project in November 2018 was an update to the user interface. Oracle call it the responsive user interface, and we had a difficult decision to make as whether to accept that, because any update that Oracle supply, most often they're actually turned off by default, and you have the option to turn it on when it suits you. So we had this decision to make in the project, and Evosys talked us through the implications, and their center of excellence team pitched in as well to give us advice. We took the decision to take the change in the project rather than delay it and then make the change after we'd gone live. We thought that would have a disproportionate impact on the organization if they'd gone through a massive change to get a new system, and then shortly after they'd gone live with it and got used to it, it changed again. And we thought that wouldn't go down well. So we took the hit in the project, and that's but that's where Evosys Center of Excellence team gave us some good advice there, I think. Interfaces, the pension interface. Now, we use the UK Civil Service Pension Scheme, so it's called My CSP. And in all my years of working in IT, which are too many to mention, this is the single most complicated interface I have ever seen by a mile. It is horrendous. Oracle supplied the interface for this, and they've done a good job of building it, but when we were starting in our project, it was nobody else was live with it, and we didn't. We're a bit. That was a bit of a surprise to us, and a bit disappointing, because what that meant was there's nobody we could go to tell us how to do it. So we were working closely with the Oracle development team, and Oracle were actually really good at turning around issues, but there were more issues than we were comfortable with. In fact, this is still an issue, to be honest. We're still not live with this interface, and to the best of my knowledge, nobody is. It's not just us. Everybody struggled with this because it is so complicated. I think that is about to change. I believe that some organizations are very close to going live, and that's going to be great, because we're actually pretty close ourselves, which is comforting. But although we've been live with Payroll, what we've been doing since we've been live is populating a series of Excel spreadsheets to enable us to keep the MyCSP information up to date. But that's a bit labor intensive, and we would like to get the automated interface working as soon as possible. So we're getting there, but we're not there yet. Invoice scanning. The Oracle supply an invoice scanning solution, but we had our own one with the eBusiness suite, and to be honest, it was pretty good. It is pretty good. It has a few extra bells and whistles that the Oracle solution doesn't have, and our finance team were reluctant to lose that functionality. There's additional functions, there's features, so we decided we would retain that, and that we would use the APIs and other ways of integrating the Oracle provide with our cloud solution to link our own existing invoice scanning solution with the Oracle cloud. And Evosys gave us some help in how to make that happen, and it's actually working really well. So that worked. Next slide, please. So what have we learned, and what is it like now we're live? So first thing, you already know this because you're here listening. Learn from others. It's the best way. Learning the hard way is not the best way. It's too painful. So if you're already using a product like the eBusiness Suite, which you can customize to meet your exact needs, then you can't do that in the cloud. Cloud product, you can configure it, but you can't customize it. So pretty much is what it is. It works out of the box, and the more you fiddle with it, the more you're likely to break it, and the more testing you have to do every time that you get a quarterly update. So Evosys have this phrase, which is mantra, which they will repeat to you again and again, which is adopt, not adapt. So you adopt the product, don't try and adapt it to how you work. So once you accept that you're going to have to change, then use that as, recognize that that's an opportunity. It's a chance to make your business processes better, make things better. So just turn it around. It's not lemons, it's lemonade. I'm a huge fan of the Cloud Customer Connect. It's got all the product documentation in one place. Cloud Customer Connect is the website that Oracle provide for its customers. It is kind of what it says on the tin there. So it's got the documentation there. There's free training on there too. There's a forum where you can ask questions and learn from other customers. But best of all, in my mind, are the idea labs. This is where you can make product enhancement requests, and they all get listed. They're all listed publicly, and you can vote for those that you think will benefit your organization. Oracle say that about 80% of their product improvements come from this source, and actually we've seen some of the suggestions that we've made come through to the final product, and that would never have happened in the old system with the eBusiness suite. The chance for a small organization, like S&H, to directly impact on the product, the flagship product of a huge multinational organization like Oracle. It's just, to me, that is a great reason for using Oracle Cloud, because of that direct link between even the smallest customer and the final product. And so Oracle assigned us an implementation success manager through the project, and they were really, really helpful, as well as giving you advice on, from their experience of seeing what other customers have done and on Oracle Cloud projects. They have a black belt in the art of managing Oracle support, and which can be tricky at times. And they were able to get our most critical issues prioritized and resolved, much faster than we were able to do on our own. So that's, so I would really urge you to work with them. They do actually, it sounds a bit jargony, implementation success manager, but it sounds very American, but they actually do, if you work with them, they can really help your project. Next slide, please. And then once you're live, don't stop. Keep going, keep your project team together as long as you can, because you need to keep working to realize the benefits. Just because I've said it before, it's as much about the people as it is about the technology. So just as the new system takes time to bed in, people need time to adjust, and you need to keep working with them to get them to be comfortable and familiar with the new system. And also you need to keep alert for opportunities to how you can use your new product better, and how it can help you with new things that come along, new issues that arose. For example, when COVID-19 came along and everybody was working from home, we needed to find out what people needed to be able to work safely at home. Did they need desks? Did they have a proper chair to be comfortable in? Monitors, the works. Did they have everything they needed to be safe? So we did created a document of record in Oracle Cloud, and put that and asked everybody to complete that with their requirements. And doing it that way, rather than using a SurveyMonkey, for example, meant that we can now report people's needs against other factors and other information that we hold within the system. So we can map needs across by where people are in the country, by various demographics, to see that we're actually complying with disability and other diversity issues. So there's fringe benefits that you can arise from doing things using the Oracle Cloud wherever you can, that make people, keeps the cloud solution at the forefront of people's minds, and keeps it relevant and keeps it up to date, and makes the organization see it as a solution and a place to go to for answers. So, and with that, keep working on building new reports and working on creating dashboards for your organization, because there's a wealth of data in the system, and if you can make it available to the managers, then that's going to only help going forward. And going forward for Nature Scott, I think that one of the big opportunities for us is something called learning communities. It's one of the features of the Oracle Learning module within the cloud. And I think it's important because Nature Scott employs quite a number of scientists, and many of these are leading experts in their field. Oracle Learning Communities is a way where you can set up or people within the organization can create their own learning material, videos or PowerPoint or other things that they can then, self-generated content, they can publish it within a community of related information, and that can be shared within the organization. So for an organization like Nature Scott, which has these experts, this incredible depth of knowledge, but it's concentrated in a few teams, but the local area staff around the organization might would benefit from having access to this knowledge. Being able to dip into short videos and little bits of training would really help them as they're dealing with complex casework that might come through their door. It won't replace the need for these experts, but it would help raise the knowledge base of the whole organization. And I think something like that would, if we can crack that, then I think that would justify the product, the whole project in its own right, and that's over on top of all the other benefits we've accrued to date. So next slide, please. Quarterly updates. Now these are great because they give you new functionality, but they can be a bit disruptive. We've been live for over a year, and we've been through quite a few of them now. When we're in the middle of the project, Evosys led us through this process, and they told us what to do, but it was pretty scary the first time we had to do it for ourselves on our own. We've got better at it with practice, but still it can be quite a thought. If you're used to a product like the e-business suite, the thought of an update or an upgrade will fill you with dread. We've been through a few with the e-business suite, and updating to release 12 of the e-business suite, that was a major project that took months and cost thousands and thousands and huge amounts of staff time, and was really disruptive. Thankfully, these updates are nothing like that, but still you've got to take them seriously. So we can't, we don't have the resources to do a full regression test of the whole system every time. So we can't test everything. So what we do is we read the release documentation Oracle provides. They issue that more than a month in advance of the update. And we read through that carefully and then use that to plan our test strategy for that update. So some key processes such as payroll, accounts payable, and raising new requisitions, we test those every time. And then onto that testing plan, we add the things that we think are going to be particularly at risk. So that will depend on the new functionality that Oracle are providing. When you get a new feature released with a quarterly update, Oracle tend to switch it off by default. So it'll be there, but you'd have to actually make an active choice to switch it on. So lately, because of the disruption from COVID, we've not been switching changes on very much. We've got a little bit of a backlog of stuff, but that's actually quite nice because we've got a little goodie bag to share with the organization when the time's right. So that's quite. We're looking forward to that. Some of the new features we can roll out, but at the moment we've got that Oracle give you that flexibility to allow you to decide for yourself, for your organization, when to make these enhancements and these improvements. And these improvements have to come from somewhere, and they come from customers. Like I've said, you'll go into Cloud Customer Connect, add on your enhancement request, the things you would really like to see in the product to make it better, and vote for the ones that others organizations are adding, because that's how we get it better. Because this is a global, Oracle is a global company, and Oracle Cloud provides a global market. The more people in the UK who are voting for UK functionality, the better it will be for us, because we're in competition with the rest of the world over this. So I'm going to wrap up there. I hope this has been helpful. Over to you, Devta.
Okay, no, thank you, Patrick. I think that was a really informative session. We've got about 5 to 10 minutes left as part of our Q&A session. So what we'll do is probably pick up the questions that have been shared with us so far by the attendees. And once we have addressed those questions, we'll probably leave the floor open for any further questions that we may have from any of our attendees, if that's okay, Patrick. I think I'll go with the questions one by one, Patrick, which we can probably answer.
Okay.
Second, I'm just opening the question. I think one of the question, Patrick, was what was the scanning solution that SNH used? We are exploring this with Evosys now.
Yes, it was from a company called Kofax. They're specialists in the scanning area, and that was they've got a really rich solution that provides a lot of additional functionality. So that's I can share more details with that if you'd like offline.
Okay. The second question, Patrick, is that do you allow staff to access Oracle Cloud on unmanaged devices? We have security concerns with this.
And so do we. Yes, we don't at the moment. Oracle Cloud has functionality within it called location-based access control, which is basically a form of whitelisting. So we use that to limit the what people can use to, where people can access the system from. So for our staff working from home, they have to connect into the organization's secure network, and then from there they can then go on to the Oracle Cloud. So we don't use any of the mobile apps. We don't allow people to use their own devices. So that gives us that addresses all our security concerns. We're looking at the moment about using two-factor authentication to see if we can, if that might help us for those people who who do need to access it from other locations and other devices. But we don't have that yet.
Okay, thank you, Patrick, for answering that question. The next question is, how long did the implementation take?
It took longer than we'd planned. The original plan was we started off in June. The original plan was would have us going live with a big bang in the nicest possible way in April 2019. For various reasons, mainly to do with payroll and part of some of the issues that had arisen through some of the challenges that had arisen through the project. That was not possible. We ended up having a slightly phased go live, with the finance going live in June and other modules kicking in over the course of the next 3 months.
Okay. The next question, Patrick, is that did SNH put the project team together? Did Evosys help with the team? Did you backfill any posts, and how long did that take to put together?
We put our internal team together. Evosys supplied the people who were going to be doing the work on configuring the system. All the work that was customer facing or facing the rest of the organization, that was all done in-house. We had our own people. We backfilled some of the posts within HR and finance, so that was a direct project cost for those backfills. We've been planning this project. We didn't rush into this project. We took our time to do all the planning and implementation, and so things were happening in parallel. So we were planning about who was going to be on the team long before the project was put together. So we knew who it was, and we had plenty of time to put that all together. This wasn't a snap decision. It was done. It was carefully thought out, and we had time to put the team together. So I wasn't. It was done in parallel with other things, so it's really hard to say how long it took, but it's a few months, I think, 3 or 4 months.
Okay, Patrick, I think there's another question in terms of what was the total duration of the project, but I think we have already answered that. One of the other questions which has been asked is, what's the annual cost to the organization?
Well, I don't really want to say exactly what we're paying to Oracle, but I will say it's more than we were paying for the e-business suite. It's probably about twice what we were paying for the e-business suite on its own, which was just support only. But then we're getting a lot more than we were in the past, because we've got additional features. The products are functionally more rich, and of course we don't have to host the system. It's hosted for us, and that's taken out a lot of risk for us, and freed up a lot of time, and there's some cost savings as well, obviously. So it's it's the reason for going to the Oracle Cloud was less about trying to save money and more about creating, about addressing risk and the new ways of working. The business transformation program that we were looking at, that was as much about that as it was about trying to save money. That wasn't the main driver behind this project.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Patrick, we can also take this as part of our one-to-one sessions that we can probably schedule with the attendees if they wish to in case they want to have additional information around the cost side of things. Okay, moving on to the next question, Patrick. So, how are you measuring the benefits of moving to the cloud and creating the ROI assessment?
So we haven't completed the measurement of all the benefits yet. We're still working through that. We've anecdotally we've got benefits. One of the main issues before was about ease of use, and obviously there are some people struggling with the new system. That's inevitable, but we are starting to get feedback that people are starting to actually like the new system, and particularly with the recruitment module that we're using, we're getting really positive feedback from the hiring managers that this actually is an awful lot better than what it was before. So we're starting to, that's one of the key benefits we're trying to achieve with this product. So it's nice to get that feedback. We are about to commission a full staff survey of the whole organization, which we can then compare with the metrics we gathered from our initial staff survey in the strategic review, and we're able to compare those to see whether or not we've actually delivered the savings that we were hoping to. So that's going to be one of the key benefits. In terms of the ROI, that's more difficult to estimate or to accurately measure, because there's a lot of that is to do with revised business processes as much as it's to do with the technology, and it's hard to separate those two out. So it's going to be difficult to actually measure that, because the savings are spread around quite a large number, small amounts of time from a large number of people. So that's always difficult to measure and prove that you captured that.
I think, Patrick, I would also like to invite Kushal to address this from an Evosys perspective and just share with the audience how we as an organization are currently supporting the UK public sector customers to measure the ROI after implementing the Oracle Cloud solution. Kushal, if you would like to add
a
point.
Hi, Devdutt. Am I audible?
Yes, Kushal, you are. Thanks.
Yeah, I think no. This is a really good question, and this is something, Patrick, which we would be exploring with SNH as well. Now, to answer this question, I mean, when Devdutt was referring to our value-based delivery framework at the beginning, I mean, that is the new framework, which we as an organization have launched in last 6 months, which is, more about delivering the value to our customers and also helping them to realize the benefits of the investment which they are making in the cloud technology. So this is all about, measuring and monitoring the outcomes, about baselining and benchmarking the KPIs. So Devdutt, if whoever has raised this, that question, I mean, if we can probably, share the details about our value-based delivery program, I think that will significantly help them.
Yep, definitely.
And if we can have maybe a one-to-one call with them as well, if needed.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot, Kushal, for your inputs. I think there's a question. I haven't been able to view the whole presentation. Is it possible to be sent a recording of this session? So yes, as mentioned in the beginning, we would be sharing the recording of this session along with the presentation slides to all the attendees who have joined us as part of today's webinar. So that will be done once this webinar has been completed. I think there's a question, what is next for SNH? How do you plan to improve the usage? What functionalities that you are not using do you plan on adopting, or what other modules do you plan to buy?
We are starting to put together a package of work that we might call our phase 2. At the moment, we're trying to consolidate on what we've got, make sure that everything we're working toward, that we have bought, we've already invested in, we're getting the maximum out of that. So that is our focus at the moment, and really actually to give everybody a bit of a break from the change. We've got other business transformation projects kicking off with Office 365 and stuff like that. So there's a limit to how much we can impose on the organization, but so I think our focus at this point is more on consolidation rather than expansion. So that is the immediate priority in the short and medium term. There are modules that we're licensed for that haven't used yet. For example, the well-being module. So that might be on our list for things that we could do. And there are other things around planning that we might be interested in, and perhaps the project thing, but we need to do more research on that to see how that would help us as an organization and whether or not that's the right approach. But but at the moment, those are the sorts of things that would be top of the list.
Okay, I mean, there are a few more questions which are coming up, but probably in the interest of the time, we might want to pick up a couple of them, and then we can revert back on any unattended answers through our follow-up emails. So I'll just pick up a couple of questions which have been recently shared with us. So I think this is a classic question, Patrick. Are you using Oracle Recruitment Cloud?
Yes, we are. We are one of the early adopters, and we really like it. It's much better than what we had before, and yeah, it's getting better all the time.
And I think one of the other questions, Patrick, following the same one on the same lines, is can you elaborate on the learning cloud in Oracle Cloud, please? What does it do? How useful is it? Did you have a learning type system before? I think this is quite a vast question, but if you just want to summarize the response in a couple of lines, because we can probably address this in a one-to-one detailed session if required.
Yeah, yes, we are using Learning Cloud. We use it to host our training. It's got a learning catalog, and we use it to allow people to book view online courses and also to schedule and plan classroom type courses as well. We had Oracle. We had the same module in the e-business suite. And it's one of the things it doesn't do is it doesn't have a content generation learning module within it. But there are plenty of products out there that can do that, and so yes, we have it. It's actually easier to use for the customers, for the users around the organization than the old system. So yeah, it's quite well received.
Yeah. Thank you, Patrick. I think we are overrunning by a couple of minutes. So just in the interest of the time, we'll quickly go through the next step. So of course, Evosys is here to help you all. And we understand that whoever has joined from different organizations, all of these organizations would be in different stages of their journey in terms of exploring their journey to the cloud. And from an Evosys perspective, we can definitely provide our advice and guidance in terms of how you as an organization can potentially explore your journey to cloud, and our advice and guidance would be depending upon which particular stage or milestone you are currently falling within your journey to the cloud. I think we can also further facilitate in setting up a reference call in case you wish to speak to Patrick or the SNH team. So I believe there are a number of questions asked to the SNH team, although we tried to respond that in the best possible way. In case you would want to have any further reference calls, we would be more than happy to facilitate that for yourself. And I think finally we understand this session was more on a high level, and our intention was more to provide you an overview. But in case you wish to have a detailed conversation around specific areas and the lessons learned, I mean, we could see that based on the questions which are coming in the Q&A session. So feel free to reach out to us. I mean, we have shared our contact details in this particular slide, and you'll also get access to this slide deck after the webinar. So feel free to contact us. We'll be more than happy to facilitate a one-to-one session with SNH and yourselves. Having said that, I think thank you to all the attendees who have joined us today. You have been a very patient audience, and thank you, Patrick, for narrating the SNH journey. I'm sure a lot of people will take away valuable learnings from this session. So many thanks once again, and have a great day ahead. Thank you.